going to be tested. The battle bus taking off here in game 10. And there's one off-spawn fight that I have a feeling we're going to need to see a little bit of a resurgence from Tayson if he intends on continuing to pose a threat. Anything could change in the blink of an eye.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Who invited Aspect to this party? A whole nother trio now joining the fun at Rangers Ruin. That just put a huge switch up on how these things have been playing out, but instead of a straight 50-50, the majority of these fights, they're trying to take two different sides of the POI. On the outskirts is Aspect and his trio, Tinka. They're trying to loot up. This is the team coming into the Global Championship. They were landing at the Kappa factory. SETI lands over there. They are on fire. I wouldn't want to land there either, so they're just trying to figure out something.
Seems a little bit bizarre, though, that Kazi Aspect would choose to actually try and land as a third party here at Rangers Ruin. This is preposterous. Pablo, Chino, Prodoxy, they fully understand. We've got to create a little bit of a gap here. They are already splitting this POI slightly with Tayson, Chicho, and Atris, and Aspect, Tinka. They did not get the drop they were looking for. Tayson, Chicho, and Atris, they might just be able to run the Oshi fellas out of here, if not run them down for eliminations entirely.
Honestly, considering the little bit of loot that they did have, you know, Wrecker Revolver on one, Sentinel Pump on the other, and they do have some shields as well. Way to stay alive. Prodexy just immediately runs out of Rangers Ruin. He said, nah, I do not want to fight that triple contested drop. They immediately move towards the west and find a key elimination. Prodoxy, Chino, and Pablo are revved up and ready to go.
This is the effect of VOD Review, because they completely shut out Striker and Tisco's teammate, Kadu, just nowhere left to escape. That's a really nice elimination to find, too, especially considering that they were pretty much forced out of Rangers Ruin due to Kazi third partying.
Now Striker and Tisco just kind of hiding. They know their teammate went down in that direction. That's the situation. Can we get those revives, boots back up? But Pico, Benno, Flixie returning back to their throne. The first elimination's cleaned up. Coyote figures out a way to even the fight, even landing some crucial damage onto Flixie as he tries to run away. Coyote finishes the job. 2 straight.
It's definitely going to be a bumpy road for Benno's team if this storyline just continues to hold strong here. But someone who hasn't had any issues with their early game, it's going to be Swizzy, Queasy, and Merstache, just taking full advantage of everything that's provided by the Hive. And Swizzy even doing a great job scouting around, heading straight towards the top of their surge base. They're ready to start getting some tags in.
Oh my, another team, Aspect, Tika, Kazi. They say, you know what? We already affected one fight at Rangers Ruin. What's the harm in going to another? They immediately make their way on over toward the top side. Tayson, Chicho, and Riz say, you know what? We're going to chase him as far as we can towards the edge of the zone. Once they reach that point, they realize they don't have the loadouts they want. 30 builds on one of those players, an empty item slot. They're immediately about face. They're trying to figure out where they can pick up the scraps from.
But you don't want to be operating with scraps when players like Marius, Pixie, and Vanya just have so much at their disposal. Uncontested, Poix are headquarters. They can spend so much time here, Jacob, and they tend to more often than not. But Visual's Braid diminished. They might have something to say about it. They went for an attempt at a sneak plan last game. It was delayed, but they're still able to, you know, follow through that last lobby. But now, Pixstar and Demas, a little bit of a fickle position at Kappa Factory, no one else in sight. But I wouldn't be too worried about these guys just yet. I mean, they're rolling off that momentum from the last win. Yeah, and I know we're talking about it, but to start the year, Pixstar and Demas haven't even played a single game in a regional FNCS final. And now you look at the end of the year, they've not only won a game on the biggest stage Fortnite has to offer, they're in contention of winning the Fortnite Global Championship. If I've ever seen a Cinderella story, this will be one right here. But they have so many juggernauts in their path. Not just Merstache in the trio, not just Pixie, Vanya, and Marius, but SETI, Yapko, Panzer, Kanata, Bolts, and Rapid as well. But something that took place in the last lobby, Jacob, is that we saw many of our top 10 players on the leaderboard getting eliminated early on. And Pollo, Agers, Acorn, well, they're still looking to try and break into that in the first place. Ager is going to find the first elimination. Gentle made shot.
Biggest thorns in their side. They kind of thought they would have multiple teams in the distance from Demon's Debris that were building surge towers to trade shots with, but they're getting pushed. They're forced on a roulette drop spot and having to force and fight just like this. So a huge change in the game plan coming into the weekend, but Pollo's not going to slow down. He doesn't want to stop or be denied this opportunity. Acorn picks up that elimination on the Resides. OCE is out of this lobby in Game 10, and that's continuing to build the confidence for Pollo, Agers, and Acorn.
And the main reason why they're even pushing this far south is because the team that they've been typically trying to establish a little bit of surge trading action with, FKS, Hero, Halad, they have not been faring well off spawn. And so with that trio being eliminated, well, Acorn, Agers, Pollo, you've got to look elsewhere. So where do they end up? Tackling Alex in on Resigns. That might be a recurring theme. Hard to tell just yet, but they still got to make up for so much lost time, and they're not the only ones. Yamzo, Clicks, and Higgs. We've seen just how stone-faced they have been between each of these lobbies. They were starting off day 2 in that 8th place position, but they have been getting pushed lower and lower in that leaderboard.
Yeah, more and more teams choosing to rotate early, not giving them the surge that they were looking for. But back to this fight here, it may not be off the drop on this spawn, but they're all looted up, ready to go. Back at Ranger's Ruin, Tayson looking across, Pablo's there, but he's gonna go ahead and try to disengage as far as possible using the crash pad, even if that means going further and further away from where the zone's actually at. And you can see why Gapseta, Way, and Scarpa have been third-partying Ranger's Ruin all weekend long, but they have that awareness to watch out for it.
The difference, though, is that they've been third-partying a weekend Proxy or a weekend Tayson trio, and now they're having a deal with Proxy, Pablo, and Gino perfectly healthy and ready to strike. Not only that, but they're still also tangled up with Tayson underneath them. Ping with Malabuka, though, on the ropes here, trying to see if they can battle their way out of this box fight position, but Kappa Kappa Factory, this is all just spilling over and against them. They're seeing whether or not they'll even have the opportunity to go for an immediate fight here, but Victor B, he's immediately cranking up onto height, just all stuck inside of these early storm ticks.
Yeah, he's gonna knight with Paper on the top side of this fight. Epic Whale kind of stuck down below as a solo, but with Paper and Victor B being a distraction, Walks is gonna get dropped down to only HP. Epic Whale is moving up that high ground. They finally figured a way on the side of Malabuka, Walks, and Pings to converge into the same box. But this is their chance now with all those extra hills. This is their original surge base. Just gotta sit towards the middle and figure out the plan for Epic Well, Victor B, and Paper. So that way they can try to make that smart move. But Victor B, Paper, Epic Well, they're just gonna go ahead and disengage on out. They got that early storm surge damage, and now they just wanna beat teams on that rotation.
Just looking to get a little bit of space creation here. Because eventually, Ping, Malabuka, and Walks are going to have to move from this position, but might have been a little bit too ambitious, trying to just crash pad out directly in the line of sights there from Walks, Malabuka, and Ping. Of course, you're going to eat some damage in exchange.
Pollo, Agers, and Acorn. Not only did they get their Demon Debris Medallion, the mythic weapon, they got the eliminations onto Anon, Resign, and Alex. They immediately moved towards the eastern side of the map. One of the only teams on this side of the map having access to that bunker, and they immediately take it. And this is where they start to replenish everything from materials to resources, their loadout. And since they're ahead of all these other teams in that path, they have the time to go ahead and continue to rotate towards the north. Same thing for some of these teams that are working their way from the top down. Savage Chat Reason, even though they are missing some shields, it's in the name of Storm Surge. Taking those shots, taking those chances, so that way they don't have to worry about it later in the game.
So Savage, Reason, and Chap are going to have to dig deep here, though, Jacob. They took a way too early departure in the last lobby, and having been chopped just now. Fortunately, Chap, Reason, able to utilize some of that Flowberry Fizz, their surge base, obviously stockpiled with more than enough resources, so not too heavily in danger, but at the same time, fully aware of the fact that teams are looking to try and catch them slipping.
Yeah, for that team that knocked down, even though they survived, it's like, do I invest the resources, build another surge tower, or do I just try to rotate? Chino, Fortnite, Pablo, one of the more aggressive teams in the lobby, especially Chino. The most eliminations in all of the Fortnite Global Championship so far when it comes to individual players. And guess what? Let's add one more to that total as Gabzetta goes down, and that's a little bit personal. It's not just for the points to catch up on the leaderboard. It's not just for the Storm Surge. It's just to shoo that fly away from their picnic.
That's really all it's been, kind of just that gnat in your face. They won't leave them alone, but you know what? For Oxy, Chino, and Pablo, when they've actually got some materials and a loadout to work with, this is the last team you ever want to get caught up with in a box fight because they have such a commanding, aggressive instances.
Yeah, here's just that. We might have missed it, but Chino's gonna make sure we do not miss all the action. That was only his first elimination. We saw this one on the Gabzetta, so he went back.
Well, edit course though. He's just like, this is just another day for me. Like another day at the office entirely. But King, PA's in phaser. Scouting out area. He was overexposed, but for Noxy, no intentions of slowing down just yet. Now they can finally enter this fight. Tayson has been knocked. Chino, once he gets going, it's like impossible to shut him down. And Chino, side by side, racking up the eliminations, several now to boot. That's just on his own head. For Doxy and Pablo also rocking their own individual eliminations, but they are a little bit hurt. They do have so much to bring themselves back up to full HP though, Jacob, because of these win-outs on their fights.
Yeah, even after taking down Tayson's team, you still see Focus, Upple, Mixon here, Tinka Aspect, and their trio were there at one point or another, but they immediately saw what was going on and said, hey, it might be better for us to try to go to the zone, worry about Storm Surge a little bit later. At least there's two teams we could try to look back on and try to focus. Fred underneath, along with Pablo and Chino, they're just trying to assess the situation. They know another team is up there. They just don't know exactly where they're positioned at.
After yesterday, Upple, Focus, and Mixon, we saw opportunities for where they were able to shine, but dealing with a team like Doxy, Pablo, and Chino, it's usually not worth sticking around. Better to just prioritize the positioning, shoot out the crash pad from behind you, but both these trios just gonna head their separate directions, two different styles of rotate.
Ooh, it might not be the biggest upgrade for them, but they are gonna be able to replenish their crash pads if it does spawn out. Maybe upgrade their Sentinel pump if it does drop as well. 3 different ones, but that's what they get. A little bit more loot to work with once they get that rank upgrade. And it's only a B rank though, so you can see the kind of the slow play, no eliminations, not necessarily their game plan though.
I like this dead side wraparound though from Seti, Panzer, and Yapko. They've got early surge already locked in, so they're gonna opt to already make a direct line in towards the elevation of the mountain range and potentially push back other teams that might be looking to try and rotate a little bit after the fact.
I can agree with that. Takes in Yamzo. This time around, the zone pulling towards the north, which means they kind of have the luxury to be able to sit in their base. I believe this might in this game, but as we tune in, Ager is feeling a little bit of struggle. That's Peterbot, Cold, and Ritual on the other side. They have to abandon ship in terms of getting Agers back into the game. So Boyo, Acorn, they're going to have to work this as a duo, and that's a huge disadvantage going against NA champs, Peterbot, Cold, and Ritual, and they're looking to get aggressive. There's only one way back into this game, and it's through eliminations itself.
This is starting to feel like Major 3 and NAC all over again right now, Jacob. Peterbot, Cold, and Ritual seemingly in the driver's seat right now for this box fight. That is up until Cold loses a good chunk of his shield. He's gonna retreat back towards the high ground. Boyo, Agers, side by side, holding down the slower layer. But the longer this drags out, the more time it provides for Ryu, Snowy, and Sa to move in.
Yeah, just a kind of scary situation, because even with the knock on the Agers, Peterbot, Cold, and Ritual didn't play aggressive, and that's usually something you see out of this team time and time again, especially since they have a deficit that they have on the leaderboard, 14th place versus 18th. You'd expect both of these teams to try to make some sort of a play, but they also know this is the two teams we've been seeing all year long essentially battle it out for 1 and 2. In terms of actual top spots and grand finals leaderboards, but in terms of the community as well.
But Boyo and Peterbot, Jacob, they were just global champions. They did that together. And now, here today, both of them going on huge huge recovery tours just to try and bring themselves back into contention for top 5. But Peterbot, Ritual, Cold, they're just continuing to push themselves up the cliff face there. Have to check back in to see whether or not Acorn Pollo even decided to pick back up on that engagement. But for right now, Reason, Chap, this is dangerous. They've got Chino, Prodoxy, and Pablo trailing them, and they've already lost Mr. Savage. They want to play for the reboot, but they've got to deal with Hero first.
Yeah, they're kind of faking it. Faking like they were going to try to crash pad away, get somebody on the other side to make a mistake. Even though they didn't peek, they realized where they were and immediately start to put pressure down. They have the Stinger, they have the minigun. They are going to melt through these builds if they could focus all on the same target. For Reason and Chap, they are 1,300 damage above the threshold, dropping down to 1,100, but they have more than enough to focus on trying to get Savage back into the game. No other team, or at least not many, can say that they have that amount of comfortability. And so for Doxy, Chino, Pop, rotate, use the Flowberry Fizz, use the crash pad to get out.
You can get a chance to look in and see what happened. Mr. Savage just too preoccupied. Do you get a chance to close off his back tarp? That is a big play come into fruition there. So above the surge threshold, Jacob, all they want to prioritize is the high ground hold. They have made that very clear here today.
Yeah, and they got a smooth rotation in. Every other team in front of them is also doing the same thing, so they're not going to be contested by many up until the point where they start to hit that line on the zone. You see it's getting stacked more and more on the south side, where more and more teams are going to have to rotate into. On the whole northeast side, there's 3 teams stacked up. Malibuca, Pings, and Walks going to be one of them. Day 2 today, their run has been impeccable if they make a mistake. And they're all going to rotate out first rotation.
Smart that they're not trying to overcommit. Talking about overcommitments, Chap sees FKS. They were trying to bring him back into the mix, but Chap's taking full advantage of the situation, just bragging out in there. And that is exactly what Chap and Reason needed. Breathing room. Maybe we'll see Mr. Savage.
A moment, because they've had 2 lackluster games so far. One decently well-played one, and that 185-point gap got dropped to 81. But with still an 81-point lead, it's about a game or so. They have a cushion. They just need to execute here and now. They cannot wait, because if they falter early, that's just opening up the floodgates for anybody and everybody to start to catch up.
But the north side of the zone, it's starting to pull so much congestion. Clicks, Iamzo, Higgs, they want to take over the positioning that Curly, Reed, and Cooper currently reside in. But they don't even realize just on the other end of that box, Chino, Pablo, Prodoxy, and you want to talk about guys who are looking for a fight. Just look at the amount of eliminations they've already acquired by 7th zone. This is one of the few teams, might even be the only team capable of dropping a double-digit elimination win.
Capable, they did it yesterday to close out the day. 19 eliminations. This is giving me flashbacks of just that. They're moving from Clicks, Higgs, and Iamzo to a whole nother trio towards the north side of the map. That's Baka, Pars, and Pump. And they have the luxury. They can wait. They can let that team make a mistake, but you're seeing Storm Surge really start to affect this lobby. Kanata, even while he's 1,500 above, finding opportunities and not trying to let them pass. They started off the entire tournament with a Game 1 victory royale and doing their best to remain consistent ever since. NA's best hope to win the entire tournament and stay inside of the top 5.
They've got a lot of surge, zone, pull, rather favorable for the time being. And being in that 4th place position, they gotta hold their own. Vortex, Goofy Mountain, it could be a real threat, but Kanata just immediately pushing them back. Don't start trying to peek our direction. Still, Sphinx, Buzz, and Shadow, they didn't get the memo. They're still willing to try and cross over, but Reason smothered, trying to see if he can live. Aspect gonna be knocked though, and that's everything for Reason right now. He needed some form of a lifeline and the life jacket from that elimination. If he can get to the body loop, but no! Another team, Mixin and Upful, they're gonna take over.
Yeah, just a little bit more than those Cyphers.
Trying to deliver the best sort of birthday gift, and what's better than clutching up a nice set of eliminations here to keep the dream going. But Reason starting to get a little lobby focus. Some heavy hitters right in front of him. Demon, Starman, Pix, but as a solo, what more can he do? He has to stay hidden. He has to conceal himself on the backside of the zone. For Stash, he's lost his IGL. He's lost his other fragger. It's Pollo who's taken out his fellow gentlemate. Swizzy eliminated. Agers gonna come at a cost, but revive. They might be able to pull it off. They're gonna drop all the way down to the bottom of the mountain face, but it was too far. They weren't intending to stand themselves directly outside of the zone pool. The zone pool is saving them.
Yeah, the zone pool is truly a blessing for Aegis, Acorn, and Pollo, because it also stopped them becoming a focus of that lobby on that side. But with Queasy, Swizzy, and Mustache having some difficulties in this game, it leaves high ground open for none other than Vanya. 6 HP, only finding bandages, and eventually will go back to 2 empty slots.
There's so much metal, all these pre-existing builds, and not only that, but the shift in elevation. Pixie well overhead. You might be able to even see this team scattered through the low ground. They're trying to get whatever hidden positions they can, but Proxy, he runs into the wrong box. Proxy's immediately put down into the dirt. Pablo and Chino, they're gonna have to get it out the mud, and Pablo with the elimination onto Uppel now means that they're stuck inside the building. They've gotta break out.
But this is the point in time in the game. We'll start to click in with every team that falls and cascade further and further, with the eventual winner getting 65 points. But in the feed, you see Chino, he's going to go down.
Oh no.
Yep, that puts pain and hunger inside as Pix is now feeling that same pressure. He's gonna fall. Demas is being stuck by himself. He has to try to figure out a way out of this situation because they have no resources. Darn, they're separated just a little bit. No materials, and now the zone and somebody else moving in. But oh my!
Taken out! The rage coming through, the frustration is felt. So many placement points lost.
A ton of placement points lost. They got around the top 15. It is wide open if Pixie, Marius, and Vanya can figure out a way to win this game with a certain number of eliminations. For one of the first times today, we could see a new first place team. But Taco, don't let me get too ahead of myself.
Be collapsing into itself. It's cannibalizing itself underneath them. They hardly have to do anything at all. Just spray, suppress, while Pablo continuing to try and push through the storm sickness, tearing away at his back. He finally manages to get inside the zone, but they've been chopped. Pixie saves himself at the last second with the crash pad, but it's Kanata. He's going up. Marius trying to stop it. Marius brings down Bolts. There's no way he's gonna let this one slide away.
The win in itself is not enough for them to take first. I said they need a certain number of eliminations. Well, that's one step further for taking that top spot, and now the pressure continues. Rapid scrambling around. He has very little builds. Kanata, he is out. Not a single material left. The splashes are running out as well. Pings from F8 trying to make a miracle run continue. 373 points. It is on him for the solo clutch to pick up these points.
Queasy's just a fan of everybody else in this lobby right now. He needs someone to take out height. He needs to see Vanya Boo Boo fall from the top of it all, but Clicks still trying to heal backside his own. He's got nothing left. Storm's gonna take care of him. Vanya, Pixie, and Marius, though, refuse to budge. They're not gonna let this one slip through their fingers. For Queasy, it's like grabbing at smoke, watching this lobby try to take them down. Muzz and Shadow still giving some hope. They are a fully intact trio.
There's only 3 full trios left in this game. Shadow, Sphinx, and Muzz are one of them, but they're getting pressured on the other side, on the low ground by King Phaser. PH's in. They're trying to run around, take priority on this zone. They have beaten Muzz up this hill, but they're focusing on the high ground. They ran out of build. It's all turning sideways. Down goes PH's in. King is scrambling. He's able to get one, but it's not enough. 3v3. The eventuality comes in. Marius is dropping down. He wants to finish the fight, but he's going to go down. Vanya trying to stay up. 2 different medkits. 2 splashes left, and it's a 1v3 situation.
Muzz, Sphinx, and Shadow might have just done it. All they have to do is remain fully intact. Vanya's still from up above. He's got a couple of chug splashes. He's got a couple of medkits. This might be our first heal up that we are witnessing, Jacob. He knows he doesn't have any other choice. He's got to fully retreat. Sphinx gonna be the last line of